Hello and good morning, you two. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us.
You guys, this book cover has really captured my soul in so many different ways, and the reason why is because we're coming up on an anniversary that I don't think the world really deserved, and I saw this book cover, and I'm reminded of every person who is still missing because we didn't know what Jewish people look like, and those pictures of a year ago, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Wow. And then right here on your book cover, it's the same thing. People are getting it wrong. And all you want to do is teach us. You want to show us a better way.
Thank you. I feel very seen by you saying that. I appreciate it.
It is amazing how you are sharing history with a generation that has lost its walk. And I mean, just going through this book, I keep going back to the same stories, and I'm going, what did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss? The time you have put into this is just amazing.
Wow. It was a labor of love, I will say for sure. I mean, our hope was to, showcase 36 different Jewish people from across time, from across place around the world, and to really bring their stories to light, and to do that in a way that's truly honoring of the complexity of not just their identities, but of their lives. And I think that, like you mentioned, it takes time. It's such a labor of love. And so really appreciate you naming that. And we hope that it comes through as a really dynamic and engaging reading experience as opposed to one that feels kind of flat, that we hope it kind of jumps out to kids. And there's a way for each of them to really feel drawn in.
But you know how it's going to jump out to kids? They're going to start writing their own stories about their own family members because they're going to realize, wait a second, I don't know about my grandma. Please, will you please, Mom, tell me something about her so that we can save it? Because this is a book of inspiration as well as empowerment.
Well, thank you. We certainly hope so.
One of the things where I think one of the reasons why I'm so touched by it is because one of my wife's pet peeves is, and it's like when she's confronted by this, I mean, she has to keep her cool. She goes, oh, yeah, I can see the Jewish in you. And she goes, really? 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 I mean, and she can't be the only one that has to go through that.
She definitely is not. This is Liz, and I am Korean American, and was adopted by a Jewish family. And so I also identify as culturally Jewish, religiously Jewish. I grew up keeping kosher. My parents still keep kosher. And the title of this book, What Jewish Looks Like, really came from all of the experiences I had growing up and still sometimes have to this day, where when people find out that I'm Jewish, the response is, oh, well, you don't look Jewish.
Yeah, see?
And to which I want to just respond, what does that mean? Because I am. That sounds like that's a misconception that you're going to have to grapple with, because I absolutely am Jewish.
Well, you really put diversity in this book, and that is such a teaching tool.
Yes, very much so, and really trying to embrace and embody diversity in every sense of that word. Certainly we highlight people of different racial and multi-ethnic backgrounds, but when it comes to gender identity, when it comes to body type, when it comes to language and location, really wanting to show the beauty and complexity and diversity of the Jewish community around the world, not just what is represented most often in the United States.
When did you know that it was time to put this into different chapters? Because each chapter has its own identity, such as to repair a broken world. This is such a place where I get lost so much in it because I'm learning so much without having to go to Google. It's a physical book in my hands with word on a glossy page.
That was definitely an early challenge, an exciting opportunity, too, to figure out how in the world are we going to organize all of these individuals that have so many similarities, of course, that are so wildly different in interests and every indicator. And so Liz came up with the idea, as opposed to chronologically organizing them or maybe doing it by career, thinking, okay, well, what is it that unites these folks? And it almost seems too obvious, but it was right in front of us, which was their Jewish values. So we figured out, okay, what are the 6 most pertinent ways that their Jewish identity shows up? And so we had, things like tikkun olam, which means to repair a broken world, or the idea of hope, or pikuah nefesh, which is to save a life. There are these, important core pillar Jewish values, and we organized folks that could have fit many, but into the ones that felt most resonant with their stories. And we hope that along with a number of other things like quotes and pull out facts and just gorgeous illustrations that Iris Gottlieb created will really help draw folks in. And hearing that you held it in your hands and it felt almost better than in Google is music to our ears.
Oh, it's so special. It really is. And, you know, one of the things that it kind of opens people's hearts to is that it's Jewish people are not just actors or directors or movie company owners. You give us the real life person inside these pages.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We even, what you just mentioned, you know, we're trying to do some of the work of deconstructing some of those stereotypes. Yep. So the reality is there are a ton of Jewish people that are in entertainment, and there's a good reason for that. And so we have a whole spread talking about why was this an industry that actually we were able to pave our way in at a time where Jews were not welcome in other industries. And why is that actually a beautiful story to share and not one to shy away from? And so we want to make sure that we're being honest about this in a way that's empowering and truthful, and deconstructing some of the really harmful stereotypes that still exist.
You're very real in this book in the way that in the opening pages you talk about, are Jews a race? I mean, I was like, wow, they jumped right into that one.
Yes, definitely not shying away from any of these questions, because I think as an educator, I think a lot about this idea of front-loading. What is the information that people need to be able to understand and wrap their heads around before engaging with other content and information in a deeper and more meaningful way? And so for folks who might be coming in with these misconceptions and stereotypes about who Jewish people are and how Jewish people have been racialized and identified by folks who are not Jewish throughout history, is really important to be able to grapple with before diving into the beauty of the Jewish community, who we are, how we've shown up, and how we are still guided by these values despite being very different.
You know, one of the things that I learned when my wife and I first got together 34 years ago was that I learned the family, the love, the history, the stories. You know, and then of course you deal with it right here. Do all people of Jewish people deal with Judaism the same? And that's one of the first things that I ever learned is that no, it's not the same.
Exactly, and I think Liz had talked about diversity in all its forms earlier, and that's another example of how we wanted to show diversity of practice. And what does it mean to be Orthodox, conservative, Reform, and beyond? And even within those groupings, how do individual families and individual people express their Jewish identity in ways that are all beautiful and also valid?
So where do you take it from here? Because, I mean, a book is a book, and we're learning from the book, but now we need an activation, if you know what I mean. It's like, okay, so now I've learned this. How can I become a better person in understanding what they have shared?
Well, we really hope that this book is the beginning, not the end to folks' education. One Jewish value that I think you'll definitely see in this book, but one that I think is also really collectively shared by Jewish people, is this value of curiosity, and hoping that reading this book, learning about the people that we've highlighted, grappling with those big questions that you mentioned, really spark people's curiosity and inspire them to want to do some more learning on their own. If it's digging deeper into the lives of any of the people featured, if it's researching Jewish people in any of the locations around the world that we've also centered, you know, it can be kind of like a choose your own adventure depending on what you happen to be interested in.
Man, 10 minutes with you guys is not enough. I have one more question, and I know that they're going to get upset, the producers and stuff, but how do we get rid of the them theory? And I think I'm going to explain it this way. Someone's going to look at this, they're going to see Itzhak Perlman, and they're going to say, oh, he's one of them. We need to get rid of them. We need to say we are all one.
I think what I'm hearing from the question is, how do we break down the walls that are separating us in so many ways?
Yes.
And I think that's really the heart of what this book's about, is saying, you know, we live in a world that's really tribal. And that really feels comfortable saying, like, oh, well, you look like me, or you're like me, and so it's us versus them. And I hope that when someone holds a book like this and sees, like, wait, even within the Jewish community, there is such a burst of expression and of representation of self, and how this is true for the Jewish community, this must be true of all different sorts of communities, the ones I'm close to and the ones I may not understand deeply yet. And so hopefully this is one step in that journey to say diversity is a value because it helps us see ourselves in everyone, and that really the us and them is just, it's so not only not helpful, but it's just not true to life.
I love you guys for bringing this book forward. I hope we meet many more times in the future because I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're grateful to be here.
Please come back to this show anytime. The door is always going to be open for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. You be brilliant today, okay, you two?
Okay,
You too.